Council Member Kathy White is going to lead us in a prayer this evening.
Dear Heavenly Father, as we meet as community leaders to decide important city matters, please help us to remember those less fortunate in our community who are suffering. Please heal our nation and help us to remember to treat one another with love and respect rather than choosing violent actions. Our democracy needs your guidance more than ever before. Please keep our first responders and military personnel safe as we all navigate these challenging and uncertain times. May our decisions reflect the values you have taught us to honor. Amen.
Thank you very much, Council Member White. Good evening and welcome to the 1912th regular meeting of the Livonia City Council. This is a voting meeting. Minutes of this meeting will be approved at the next regular meeting scheduled to be held on Monday, January 25th, 2020. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Okay, and remember to give your location so we can have that.
Oh, thank you for that reminder. Yes, please give your city and your state, right, Susan?
Okay, yes. Councilmember White?
President Lehigh Acres, Florida.
Councilmember McCullough?
Present. Livonia, Michigan.
Councilmember Donovic?
President, currently gone military duty.
Councilmember Jolly?
Present, Livonia, Michigan.
Councilmember Toy?
Here in Livonia, Michigan.
Vice President Barr?
Here in Livonia, Michigan.
President McIntyre?
Here at Livonia, Michigan, and just Council Member Don, just an FYI, I don't think we have a great audio connection tonight, so just bear with us, please, if we're having a hard time hearing you. Thank you. All right, and we have, I believe, all members of the council with us this evening. At this time, I'd like to have the presentation of the revised minutes from the 1909th regular meeting of the City Council held on November 16th, 2020.
So moved.
Moved by Toy.
Support.
Support from Barr. Are there any other corrections or comments on the minutes? If none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on the approval of the revised minutes?
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough?
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic?
Aye.
Councilmember Jolly?
Aye.
Councilmember Toy?
Aye.
Vice President Barr?
Aye.
President McIntyre?
Aye, and the revised minutes from the 1909th meeting of November 16th, 2020 are approved. At this time, we'll have the presentation of the minutes for the 1911th regular meeting of the City Council that was held on December 14th, 2020. Council.
So moved.
Second.
And second by Jim Jolly. Councilmember Jolly. Are there any comments or corrections to the minutes? All right, seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on the approval of the minutes from the December 14th meeting?
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough?
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic?
Aye.
Councilmember Jolly?
Aye.
Councilmember Toy?
Aye.
Vice President Barr?
Aye.
President McIntyre?
Aye. And the minutes for the 1911th meeting are approved. At this time, I go to the council for any announcements, tributes, or recognition. I know that I believe that Mr. Jolly, Councilmember Jolly, has a list of our city retirees. Would you like to begin with that, Councilmember Jolly?
Yes, Madam President. It's my pleasure as the council's representative on the retirement board to thank and wish a happy retirement to Thomas Blavelt, senior police officer serving 25 years for the city of Livonia, Stanley Kotlarzik, maintenance mechanic 2, serving 29 years for the city of Livonia, and Vicky Worth, personnel clerk, serving 20 years in the civil service department for the city of Livonia. We thank each of them and wish them happy times and safe and healthy times in their retirement. And we've appreciated all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jolly. Anyone else?
Madam President,
Vice President Barr.
not really an announcement, but probably as good a time as ever. I'd like to ask that item number 12 tonight, which is the last item on the consent agenda, be removed from consent and placed after number 14, please.
Item number 12 be moved to the regular agenda.
Regular agenda and to handle it after number 14, if we could, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe that there is no issue with doing that, correct, Mr. Bernier?
There is no issue with doing anything. Council members can take it off the consent agenda.
That was my understanding, and I need to turn my volume, figure out how to turn my volume because I'm having a hard time hearing. All right, do any other council members have any announcements to make?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I
Councilmember Toy.
think what's in order is to congratulate your son on his possible admittance to one of 2 colleges. I was hoping he'd pick U of M, but it sounds like he's going to pick Michigan State. And I just had to throw that in for you, Madam President, because I know the green heart that you have. Mine is blue, of course, but much congratulations to Patrick on a very good decision for him, and he'll be successful in whatever. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Toy. I appreciate that. And he's got to decide now between Michigan State and Xavier. So it's an exciting time and I think all of us who have been young once and some of us who still are can remember those times when the stressful decisions in your life were between all good things. And I encourage him as well as everyone else at that phase in their life to really appreciate when your decisions are all among good choices, because as you get older, all the choices don't always tend to be for good things. So thank you very much, Councilmember Toy. I appreciate those kind words. If no one else has any comments, I do have an announcement to make, and that is to wish a very special birthday, 101st birthday, to Alice Hosback. Alice is an outstanding resident of Silver Village. She's an amazing lady. She has incredible stories of growing up in Livonia. Alice never married. She lived after her parents died with her, I believe it was her twin sister, Jeannie. And she is just an amazing lady. And I had the pleasure of celebrating her 100th birthday with her last year at the Silver Village Community Center. And she's just, there are no words to describe someone who at 101 is delightful and articulate and, can recall so many things. But a very, very happy birthday to her. And I understand that some of her friends at Silver Village put together a little drive-by today, and I think got some members of the police department. And so she was able to have her birthday acknowledged. So thank you for that indulgence. But happy birthday, Alice. And we sure are fortunate to have you in our city. At this time, I go to introduction of the department heads, which, as I always say, is a little bit tricky via Zoom when I can't just look and see everyone. I'm going to begin with our Director of Information Services, Mr. Casey O'Neill, who is not really visible to us, but all of his work is visible to us every single Zoom meeting we have. And thank you, Casey, for all that you continue to do. We've got LaShawn Thomas, our Director of Governmental Affairs. We have Mr. Mark Taramina, our Director of Economic Development and Planning. Our City Attorney, Mr. Paul Bernier. Sarah Kasparich, our City Council Office Manager and Administrator. Susan Nash, our City Clerk. Mr. Todd Zelensik, our City Engineer. Flip to the next page. We've got Police Chief Curtis Cade with us, our Director of Administrative Services, Mr. Dave Varga, our Director of Human Resources, Ms. Denise Mayer, our City Treasurer, Linda Scheel, and let me see, and I think that's it. So thank you to all of our department heads for being with us this evening. And at this time, we go to the first session of audience communication, and this is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to communicate with council on any item not on this evening's agenda. And I'm going to ask our parliamentarian, the Honorable Kathy White, if she would please read our rules for audience communication.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the public audience at the meeting shall not speak until they are recognized by the chair. Each person recognized by the chair to address the council shall identify himself or herself by name and, if appropriate, group affiliation. A person addressing council on an item on the agenda shall be limited to 2 minutes, unless the period of time is extended by a majority of the council present, and shall be recognized to speak prior to council's consideration of the item. There will be an audience communication section of not more than 30 minutes duration at the beginning of all council regular and study meetings where citizens may address the council. There will also be an audience communication section at the end of all regular and study council meetings where citizens may address council on any matter that is not on the agenda of that meeting. Citizens who wish to expand upon their remarks will be asked to reduce the matter to writing and submit it to the city clerk, and such item may be placed on a future council study session for future consideration or further consideration. A person addressing council under the audience communication portion of the agenda will be limited to a total of 3 minutes at each study or regular meeting unless the period of time is extended by a majority of the council present. A person may address the council once during audience communication. If the citizen has addressed the council during the first audience communication period at the beginning of the meeting, the citizen will not be permitted to address the council again during any audience communication period at the end of the meeting. Anyone addressing the council shall make responsible comments. Personal, impertinent, slanderous, or profane remarks are not permitted, and anyone causing a breach of the peace may be removed from the council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, we go to the audience, and we'll start with Connie Dickey. And let's see, there we go. Good evening.
Good evening. Happy New Year. I have a question for all because I'm not clear on it. I live on Rayburn, which is by Planned Parenthood. Has there ever been a definition or clarity on signage that is out there, put out there with the protesters on the numbers, how far where they stand? Do they carry the signs, or can they place them in the eaves area? Is there an ordinance for that?
There is, and I apologize, I'm having a hard time with my view this evening. There is an ordinance for that, Ms. Dickey. There are ordinances for that, and the Livonia Police Department has been out there a number of times, and they've been summoned by both parties, both residents and people who object to the protesters' activities and think that there's ordinance violation, and also sometimes by the protesters who believe that that what they're being told they can and can't do it contradicts the ordinance. And the issue has been under review by the city, by the administration, by the traffic commission. And we do our best to enforce the ordinance as it is. And the issue with making changes to an ordinance regarding free speech is a very, it's threading a needle. And we and the administration, the law department, looks very carefully at how we can address the situation without violating anyone's rights. And it's very difficult to do that.
I know it's a sensitive, especially with what's going on in the country, which concerns us about anything else that may happen at the corner. But today, there were several that were out right on the curb of Farmington Road, waving their signs at drivers going by. And I mean, there was inches before traffic. And I didn't know if that there was a ruling on where they could stand or not. And
I believe that those would be ordinances relating, and Mr. Bernier, if I'm misstating, please speak up, but those would likely fall under ordinances regarding impeding traffic, being a distraction. Mr. Bernier, am I wading into legal speak that I shouldn't be?
No, it's quite all right. The sidewalks and the right-of-way between the sidewalk and the street is the public right-of-way. And as long as they're not interfering with traffic or causing a traffic problem, they can protest on those two areas. There is an issue about putting the signs into those areas because that's clearly a violation of the ordinance, to put the signs in the ground and put them there. So walking, talking, and doing protesting from that area, as long as you're not interfering with the flow of traffic or causing a traffic hazard, is permissible.
okay, because there's several people that come independently and they protest and they do it fine. But there are certain groups that put out 5 to 10 signs. They never carry it, but they're debris all over in the eaves area, blocking traffic. Do we call the police then?
I would say that if you believe they're in violation of the ordinance, that is the appropriate response.
Okay. I thank you and I wish you a good year.
Thank you. And Ms. Dickey, we want to thank you very much for taking the opportunity to call and express your concerns, and the fact that this is extremely difficult issue because of the First Amendment rights in no way, I hope you understand, in no way indicates that we are all dismissive of your concerns or the concerns or issues of the other residents.
Absolutely not. I just, as I said, it's a sensitive time for the whole country and it's a concern. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the audience who would like to address the council on any item not on this evening's agenda? Going once, going twice, third call. All right, and with that, we move on with the rest of our agenda, and we will begin with reports from the mayor and other city officials. We have a communication from the Office of the Mayor dated January 7th, 2021, forwarding the annual report for the fiscal year 2019-2020, which reflects the finances and administrative activities in the city. It is respectfully suggested that the item listed above be received and placed on file for the information of the council. All right, now we move ahead with our consent agenda. It was items 1 through 12. It's now items 1 through 11. Right, Mr. Barr, you asked to remove item number 12. Items number 1 through 11 listed on the consent agenda are voted on as one item. It does not mean that they are any less important than any other items on the agenda, but rather they have been determined not to be controversial in nature when they were reviewed at our study meeting. Mr. Jolly, Councilmember Jolly.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to offer the approving resolution for the consent agenda as modified. Thank you.
Thank you.
Support.
Support from Councilmember McCullough. Thank you. All right. Madam Clerk, if you would please take the vote on approval of the consent agenda.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough,
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic,
Aye.
Councilmember Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Toy,
Aye.
Vice President Barr,
Aye.
President McIntyre.
Aye, and the consent agenda is modified, is approved unanimously. Thank you. We will now move on to unfinished business, beginning with item number 13. This is a proposed amendment to the Livonia Code of Ordinances, vacating as amended. This comes from the Department of Law, 2020-09-03-04, submitted by Group 10 Management on behalf of Laurel Investment LLC, to vacate an existing public utility easement located on the west side of North Laurel Park Drive between 6 Mile Road and University Park Drive 17117 and 17123 North Laurel Park Drive, Holiday Inn, located in the southeast quarter of Section 7. Councilmember White?
Move approval?
We actually need
Oh, first reading. Sorry, first reading. I'll offer first reading.
Councilmember White has offered first reading on amendment to the code, to the code of ordinances. And just, I just got a notice that a scan is starting on my PC. So if I suddenly fade out, I'll ask Vice President Barr to just continue until I can get back online. And again, just a reminder that when we are making changes to the ordinances, those do not proceed as we do with many of our items with just a motion to approve and then a second. Changes to ordinances require a first reading at one meeting and then a second reading at another meeting. And then finally, before they can become effective, they have to be published in the newspaper. Item number 14 is also an amendment to zoning ordinance, and this will be a roll call vote because we already had the first reading. This is a proposed amendment to zoning ordinance number 543 as amended. This comes to us from the Department of Law regarding petition 2020-07-01-04 submitted by the Adams Park Development LLC to rezone the properties located on the south side of Linden Avenue between Inkster and Middlebelt Roads, 14416 Harrison Avenue and 28201 Linden Avenue at the former Adams Elementary School site in the southeast quarter of Section 24 from PL Public Lands to R1 One Family Residential. The first reading was given by Councilmember Brandon McCullough on Wednesday, December 2nd, 2020.
Madam President?
Yes, Councilmember Jolly.
I'm happy to offer the second reading here. Typically, whoever offers the first reading offers the second reading as well, but I saw some hesitation there from Mr. McCullough. So
I understand that. So I thank you for offering the second reading. Is there a discussion? Councilmember Toy.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'd just like to offer a shout out to these petitioners who worked real hard along with the council. I know Councilman Jolly and Councilman McCullough and several others on the council had some good concerns on this, and we tried to be unique in the design of it, and the neighbors came forward, which was real welcoming because, you know, many of the concerns we could address and answered for the most part. And I think hopefully this development will be a welcome addition in that area as well. So I just want to commend the developers for adhering to a lot of the things we suggested, and also to the neighbors for giving us their input and suggestions as well. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember Toy. Any other discussion? Anyone from the audience who wishes to address this issue? Seeing none, Clerk Nash, would you please take the roll call vote on this?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic,
Aye.
Councilmember Jolly,
aye.
Councilmember Toy,
Aye.
Vice President Barr,
Aye.
President McIntyre.
Aye. And the second reading and the roll call vote is approved. The ordinance will become effective upon publication in the newspaper. And with that, we will return to what had been item number 12 on our consent agenda, which Vice President Barr had asked that we take up as a regular agenda after item number 14. Item number 12 is a site plan petition. This comes to us from the Planning Commission. It's regarding petition 2020-11-08-07 submitted by Adams Park Development LLC requesting to develop a condominium, Adams Park, consisting of 39 single-family homes on the properties located on the south side of Linden Avenue between Inkster and Middlebelt Roads, 14416 Harrison Avenue and 28201 Linden Avenue, the former Adams Elementary School site in the southeast quarter of Section 24.
Madam President?
Yes, Vice President Barr.
I'll offer an approving resolution on this item.
Thank you. Support from Councilmember Toy.
Madam President,
Vice President Barr.
just want to explain the reason I asked it, and council probably figured this out, but for others, the reason I asked it to be taken off of consent is we needed to handle the rezoning before we could handle the site plan. So that was the only reason for that. I'm fully in support of this. I think of the different home development projects that we've seen in my time on council, and this is one of the easiest to approve. And it goes back to what Councilwoman Toy said earlier. I just feel like the petitioners have been very responsive to the concerns that were expressed from us, from the neighbors. And I just think it's a really attractive and really well-designed development, ties into the park. And, you know, as some of you know, that's my old neighborhood. I know the names of some people that live across the street from this, and I'm sure they're feeling bittersweet, maybe even a little bit bitter about this, just losing that open space. But the reality is with the school gone, privately held property, it was going to be developed. And I just think this is something that is not only going to be good for this new neighborhood, but I actually think it's going to be a huge asset for the neighborhood all the way around. I think it's political values around there, even more than they already have. So very, very happy to support this and excited to see the final product.
Thank you, Vice President Barr. Anyone else? Councilmember Jolly.
Thank you, Madam President. So this, like has been previously said, this was a very easy decision to make once the developer was receptive to the items that we put forth. They not only put those items forth and kind of amended their site plan that they originally proposed, but they gave us the addresses of other developments that they had done in the metropolitan Detroit area. At least one of those other developments is another old school site that they developed into new housing in Farmington. I had an opportunity to visit that site and another site, and I was impressed with how well they integrated the new housing into the neighborhood and really how the houses looked. They felt like a little enclave that matched the older homes as well. So this is an easy decision, and I think it's, you know, it's been said already tonight, but it is the best home development that we've had come before us in my time on council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jolly. Any other comments? Anyone from the audience who wishes to address this agenda item? Seeing none, Clerk Nash, would you please go ahead and take the vote on the approving resolution that was offered for the site plan petition?
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough?
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic?
Aye.
Councilmember Jolly?
Aye.
Councilmember Toy?
Aye.
Vice President Barr?
Aye.
President McIntyre?
Aye. And so the site plan petition is approved unanimously by the council. So now we go back to the agenda, and so does item 15 now become item 16, or does it stay item 15?
Whatever.
All right, I'm going to say that it's item.
I would say keep it as it is, to just so people can follow along.
That's what I was going to
Number
say.
later, fine, but I think just to keep following the agendas.
That was my suggestion. So item 15 is petition 2020-09-06-02, submitted by the City Planning Commission pursuant to section 2301B of the Livonia zoning ordinance, number 543 is amended to determine whether or not to amend Article 31 NP district regulations of the City of Livonia zoning ordinance, number 543 is amended to expand the list of permitted uses under section 31.03 to include beneficial forest management practices such as the removal of invasive species and selective trail construction in accordance with the city's master parks and recreation plan and non-motorized transportation plan, Livonia bike walk. Council. Councilmember Toy, and then.
Sorry, this is a first reading, isn't it? No? Yeah, that's what I thought. I could, unless Jim, you want to do it. I'll offer a first reading, Madam Chair.
Madam President,
Yes.
I don't believe this is a first reading.
No.
Is it not?
It references the zoning ordinance, but it's not a changing of the ordinance.
It's expanding, right? It's,
This should be getting referred,
I'm sorry, Paul.
I'm sorry, this should be getting referred to the law department to draft the ordinance for council's first reading.
Okay. Madam Chair, if that's okay, if I still have the floor, then I'll do, let's see, send it over to the attorney's officer. So that's professional advocates can do it.
You're offering the approving resolution to
Yes.
send it to law for drafting the ordinance change.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay,
Good support on that.
all right. And we need
I'll support that, Madam President.
support from Councilmember Jolly. Any discussion? Anyone from the audience? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on the approving resolution to send this to the law department for preparation of the ordinance change of the language?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough,
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic,
Aye.
Councilmember Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Toy,
Aye.
Vice President Barr,
Aye.
President McIntyre.
Aye, and the resolution is approved, so this will be submitted to the law department for preparation of ordinance language for submission to council. Number 16, as an administrative response to Council Resolution 349-20, coming in test from the Department of Law regarding the subject matter of parking restrictions during the period of bulk leaf pickup. Councilmember Jolly.
Thank you, Madam President. I am the one who initiated this request to the law department and received the support of my colleagues here in council. It was initiated due to the fact that we had residents from a particular neighborhood call to complain and inquire as to if there would be a better process that would alleviate some of the congestion on their streets during bulk leaf pickup. I think it's important for all of us, and I think we always typically follow through here, to find answers, and sometimes those answers aren't what residents want to hear, and this is one of those cases. The letter that we are receiving from the law department goes into detail why, from a practical perspective, it does not make sense to have any sort of parking ordinance during bulk leaf pickup. I'm satisfied with it, and I'm happy to have the answer so we can report back to the residents who brought this before us. Thank you, Madam President. I don't believe any actions needed for this.
So you're offering a resolution, no further action?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, do we have support from Councilmember Toy? Any discussion? Any discussion from anyone in the audience? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take a vote on the resolution, no further action?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough,
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic,
Aye.
Councilmember Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Toy,
Aye.
Vice President Barr,
Aye.
President McIntyre.
Aye, and the resolution of no further action is approved unanimously. Thank you. We move on to item number 17. This is a waiver petition. It comes to us from the Planning Commission regarding petition 2020-11-02-10 submitted by LS Equity LLC requesting to redevelop the commercial shopping center, Shops of Livonia, including demolishing a portion of the existing building, constructing a full-service restaurant with drive-through facilities, Chick-fil-A, constructing an addition and renovating the exterior facade of the existing building, and constructing a multi-tenant retail building with drive-through facilities located on the north side of Plymouth Road between Haller Avenue and Middlebelt Road. And the addresses are 29250 through 29350 Plymouth Road in the southwest quarter of Section 25. Council.
Madam President,
Vice President Barr.
I'd like to offer Resolution A on this item, please, which is the one without changes to item 10.
All right. Councilmember Donovic, do you wish to offer support?
Not at this time, ma'am. I was going to speak after Councilman Barr, if that's okay with you.
Yes, okay. We have,
You need support?
we do need support, unless I missed.
Yes. For sake of discussion here, yes.
Okay. We have support offered by Council Member Toy. Council Member,
Madam President.
speak first.
Sorry,
Okay.
you cut out there. Did you call on me?
Vice President Barr, yes.
Okay, thanks. First of all, I understand the hesitancy on the support. If I can guess what some of you are thinking. So Councilwoman Toy, thanks for doing that for sake of discussion. I'd like to explain what I'm thinking. And the difference between this and the other resolution we were considering was whether or not left-hand turns would be permitted out of the two, see if I can do this off the top of my head, the two southernmost drives on the west side of this property. There's 3 drives on the west side of this property onto Middle Belt, and the 2 southernmost ones, I believe, is what had been requested, that there be a no left turn sign there. And I totally understand the rationale behind requesting that. And when I heard it, initially thought it made sense. The reason why I've settled on not preferring to do that at this time is because I think we're actually trading one problem for another. What's going to end up happening there is a lot of people turning right out of there, realizing they can't turn left, and then immediately going over to turn around, most likely in the entryway to the Ford Parts Depot or whatever that Ford building is. And I'm just envisioning cars doing that and us just creating another problem. And I think that again, there's a strong rationale for doing it, but I actually think by restricting the flow of those 2 exits, not only considering the turnaround that people are going to do, but some of the backup that's going to lead to within the property, people trying to figure out what they're going to do, I actually think could create more traffic problems both outside and inside the property. So I might end up being wrong on this. I mean, this is one that I'm not 100% confident of, but I think if we're going to put restrictions on an area that busy on where people can go, we have to be 100% confident that we're doing the right thing. And I'm just not. I am familiar with that corner. During a previous job, I was at that Office Depot about 3 or 4 days a week. I know how busy it gets. Even so, I did spend about a half an hour down there this week just watching traffic patterns. Granted, I was not there during the peak of the peak time. I was there probably just at the beginning of the peak time. And while it's busy, there were breaks in the flow of traffic to get out. Now, I do recognize that at the peak time, that's going to be a problem, especially the first few months. But folks, the first few months of this development, no matter what we do, are going to be a pain traffic-wise. And so that's my reasoning. I will say overall that this project, I couldn't be more excited about this project, and not just because I'm a Chick-fil-A fan. I remember, I don't know if Mark remembers this, he probably doesn't, but about 3 or 4 years ago, I remember making a comment to Mark Taramino, what do we got to do to get a Chick-fil-A on Middle Belt? Because I wanted Livonia to be the first one in the area to get one, and I wanted it there because I see I always saw the power. I honestly think Chick-fil-A has the potential to do for that corner what Menards did for the area in front of it. It draws that many eyeballs. I think this is going to be a catalyst for a corner that has been struggling for a long time to be really, really strong. So full-throated approval for this. I prefer without the left turn signals. I think I'll be quiet and let some other people comment, but I'll probably come back in later because I think we may have the traffic consultant here tonight that we didn't give a chance last week. I may have some questions for him, but I'll stop now to see if any other council members want to speak up.
All right, I'm going to go in order that hands were up. Donovic, Jolly, McCullough, and then Toy. Councilmember Donovic.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you to Vice President Barr. Him and I were actually texting a few days ago while he was at the corner of the intersection. So I do appreciate his resolution, and I do really appreciate his point of view, and I do generally understand them, and they are some concerns of mine. However, I'm still going to offer my resolution B, and my rationale is this corner is already congested. It's going to continue to be congested. There are currently turning restrictions to the west for Walmart to turn left onto Plymouth Road. There are turning restrictions to turn left into this current development if you are traveling eastbound Smith Road. So the restrictions are already there, and I think these added restrictions turn south onto Middlebelt Road will help alleviate the further traffic that we are going to see at this corner. I am a huge advocate for this project. I think it's going to be, like Council Vice President Scott Barr said, a catalyst to this development, and I'm really looking forward to it. But there are some traffic concerns, and I think turning left is just not feasible. It's going to cause more hassle than we're already dealing with. So regardless of what happens, I'm really looking forward to this project moving forward and being a really great investment for this corridor and for the eastern corridor of Smith Road. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Member Jolly.
Thank you, Madam President. I spoke in support of this at the study meeting, specifically because the food is great. It's a great investment for the corner. And, you know, I like the family, you know, locally owned operator model that they use. Maybe because we talked about this at the study, my wife and I went out to the Chick-fil-A in Novi, and I understand it's a different circumstance with the design and stuff like that. But you know, Member Toy's words came true very quickly in terms of the traffic is going to be a mess. I mean, it made me rethink the entire situation with the traffic. There was a question asked, and I'm not sure who asked it at the study meeting, but are we able to put the cost of the Livonia police response for traffic on the owner of the property, either the operator of the restaurant or on the developer of the property? Mr. Bernier, can you answer that question? Because we're surely going to need it. And although there is a great investment here in the property, I don't think that expense should be borne by the taxpayer.
Just before I go to City Attorney Bernier, I did ask that question, Councilman Jolly, and I thought the answer I heard was yes, that they can bear the responsibility for additional traffic patrolling, control, direction, that if it's needed to maintain safety by LPD. But I'd like to make sure that I heard that correctly. Mr. Bernier?
I don't believe that I answered that question. And quite frankly, I'd have to look into it, because we have a lot of businesses that use a lot of our police services that I wish, quite frankly, we could bill for going to pick up people who commit crimes at various ones, and we never do that. I think the picking and choosing certain businesses is problematic unless we have a policy of doing it to a lot of different businesses. If we contract for a specific issue, I know, like the city of Detroit, for instance, does around the ballparks when there's big events, they contract, and the ball company, Tigers or the Red Wings, whoever it is, may pay a fee to them for the extra services that are provided. But for as far as regular services are concerned, I'm leaning against that, but I would have to do some research on that issue before I would want to hesitate to give you an answer.
And if I can just build on that real quick, I guess my question would be, do we have to memorialize such a possible intention in these documents here to put them on notice in regards to this? Because I have no doubt at all that we're going to need law enforcement out there directing traffic on Plymouth Road and on Middlebelt Road. And again, I love this project, but the traffic is going to be a nightmare. And just while I have the floor, my last comment on this matter is there any thought to somehow using the other portion of the parking lot that is in the different phase to stage cars during this, what we've been calling the honeymoon period, to keep as much traffic as possible off of the roadways? And somehow, even if we had to like temporarily mark the lines or create paths or something like that in the existing parking lot that is in front of the office, store, anything that we can do to mitigate the damage and the congestion on the roadway, we may want to do that.
Mark, before I continue with the rest of council, did you wish to address that?
The second half of Councilman Jolly's question with respect to using the existing parking lot during the opening period of the restaurant. And this was discussed at the Planning Commission. And while we do have a conceptual plan for that period of time, we noted that there might be a better plan using the parking lot for exactly that purpose. And so the petitioner was open to that idea. They would take a look at it. And that's one of the reasons why the prepared resolution requires the submission of a plan to the Traffic Safety Bureau prior to the restaurant's opening for them to review that plan in anticipation of those traffic concerns, Mr. Jolly.
Thank you. Did I fail to get a second for Mr. Dodd? Offered resolution.
Councilmember Toy.
Councilwoman Toy offered it.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I thought I had a note, but I couldn't remember if I had or, okay, thank you. All right, next, did you have anything else, Councilmember Jolly?
I do not. I'm just out of keeping myself straight here. Do we currently have two motions on the floor? Are we debating two separate motions or one? Scott offered a motion and then I think that was a motion.
We have two motions on the floor.
Oh, we do?
Madam President,
Yes.
I think Rob did say he intended to support proposal B, but I don't believe we don't actually have that on the floor. He just indicated his
Okay,
intention.
thank you. We don't have it on the floor, and that's why I didn't have a second. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Jolly. I was getting confused with all the discussion and my notes to myself. Thank you. All right. Councilmember McCullough.
Thank you, Madam President.
And Councilmember White.
Just kind of going over my notes. I know I touched base on these, I think, in the last study meeting, but the petitioner and a lot in the packet, just to touch base, I think this project is, I'm in favor of this project. This has been a corner. I grew up right down the street at Harrison and Plymouth. And so I know that this plaza and then this section of the city has been decimated with a lot of vacant buildings. The Community Thrift, which was kind of the anchor store on the east side of this parcel, has been, I don't think it's been in business for the last 20 years. And obviously we lost the Walgreens, we lost the costume store. I think there was some other clothing stores, and the only thing left is the Office Depot. Everybody's concern that I've heard from is traffic, and that is going to be a huge component. I did want to touch with a couple items that were listed in the planning packet, just for everybody that's out there, is, all traffic modifications must be completed prior to the C of O. So that's listed in there. And then a traffic plan, as Mr. Kamina did touch base on, must be submitted 6 weeks prior to a grand opening. And yeah, I think the honeymoon period will obviously be substantial. I don't dismiss any traffic issues at that corner. Obviously, with the Northville Township, the Canton, and even the Novi being in play, I think will alleviate some of this. But overall, this development, like I said, with it being vacant in that corner, I think the phase 1, 2, and 3 will be overall a great economic win for the city, especially at that corner. I think that will spear potentially all the way to Inkster Road, at least is my hope. Even across the street, I know we had a petitioner that is opening up a Big B. It might put more people there, but I think it does revitalize the corner. Those are the notes I have, and I will be in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Then Councilmember White, please.
Thank you. I am in support of this project, but I do share Councilmember Donovick's concerns about a left-hand turn from the two driveways to the south, going onto Middlebelt Road. And I have been to a Chick-fil-A. The one I've been to was in Grand Rapids. I'm sure the honeymoon period was past, but it was still extremely busy. And even though there may be a potential for drivers that turn right to find an area to turn around to travel, to effectively make a left-hand turn by by finding a driveway on the other side of Middle Belt to turn around in. I still think even if that happens, it's safer than making left-hand turns there at that area. So although I am very much in support of the project, I would be inclined to support a motion for Resolution B, which would approve it without the left-hand turns in the, from those two driveways. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Vice President Barr.
Sorry, I was on mute. Looks like all the council members asked a question, so I did want at this time see if the traffic consultant who we didn't talk to last week is here. I know Chick-fil-A had a traffic consultant that was available last week, and I just want to give him a chance to let us know he's here, and if he is, I have a few questions for him.
Okay, Mr. Taormina?
Yes, he is available. Mr. Labadie is one of the attendees. Can I point out, just for clarification, however, condition number 10 on Resolution B, as it currently reads, only prohibits left turn movements from the middle driveway on Middle Belt Road. It would have to be amended to include the south driveway on Middle Belt Road. I will point out, however, that that driveway is not located on the petitioner's property. That is actually on the former Walgreens property, and it's available to this site via a cross-access agreement. So I don't know whether or not the authority rests with this applicant to be able to make changes to that drive approach. I'll just point that out.
Thank you, Mr. Taormina. I appreciate that's helpful information. Before we go to the traffic consultant, and I also see that we have members from the audience that wish to speak to this issue. Thank you for your patience. I promise we will get to you. I have a question to ask, and that is, I'm not sure if it's to Mr. Bernier, or I think we have Chief Kate on with us. Have we ever, is there I guess two questions. Is there any precedence for when the Livonia Police Department has contracted for services with a private entity? And is there, if not, are we permitted to do that?
I'll let the chief answer that question as it pertains to the historical. I don't think our cost recovery ordinances cover this type of a situation that allows us to do this. And quite frankly, that's I'll stay away from the policy decision on it. We do have cost recovery for police and fire runs. I'm not sure it necessarily applies in a situation where we just have to nap a lot of traffic for whatever reason, because there's a business there. But I'll let the chief answer the questions about whether we've ever contracted with businesses.
Councilmember Jolly, did you want to speak before the chief?
Yeah, because it pertains to maybe something that he would speak of, and it'll be short. So when I visited the Novi Chick-fil-A, one of the circumstances that they had there that I think would be an absolutely horrible situation here is they had private employees either working for Chick-fil-A or some kind of contracted vendor or something like that, directing the traffic even off of their property and their physical footprints, going all the way into the mall parking lot and well into the mall parking lot. And it would be an absolute nightmare of a scenario if we had non-police officers directing traffic on Plymouth or Middle Belt Road. And that's why I bring up the question here, because I think it's that important. The last thing I want to have is some random person out there saying who can go where and what else happens, because God forbid that person gets hit or they direct inappropriately and they cause an accident. We need to get to the bottom of this, and I'm very happy to hear the chief in regards to this, but that's my concern. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Toy, did you want to speak before I ask the chief if he would be willing to address this?
Madam Chair, I had several concerns, but I'll hold off on those. But I would like to also hear from the traffic consultant, as been pointed out by other members, if we may, Madam President.
Okay, I would like first to get this question answered by the chief if we could, and then go to the traffic consultant. Chief?
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam President.
Sorry to put you on the spot here.
No, that's okay. From the question of recovery, cost recovery for traffic direction, basically, the only time that's occurred that I can recall is the utilization of the Reserve Officer Program, where there is fees that are assessed to whether it's a LPS or at some points in the past, many years ago, certain churches would ask us to do traffic direction at certain times on Sundays, and they would bear the cost of that assignment.
Chief, I'm sorry, the churches would pay according to our schedule or whatever we have.
That's correct. I'm not aware, as Mr. Bernier mentioned, I'm not aware that our cost recovery ordinance would allow us to bill for those services. I will say that, as everyone here has acknowledged, I am very, very concerned about the traffic situation. I support this and so many other projects that the city's involved in to make Livonia even better than what it is. But I am really concerned about the backup in, quite frankly, especially what we've experienced this year with short tempers and road rage, et cetera, is that things that come out of that. I'm also very interested to hear the analysis of the traffic consultant. I know our traffic people, when they looked at this and brought it to me, they voiced these exact concerns in the flow of traffic around the building going forward. It's busy. The corner needs it, but I would hate to have everyone, including the petitioner, certainly wants it to be successful. And it's going to take us some time, I'm sure, to kind of work things out along with the property owner. But I can see it being a significant drain for us in dealing with the issues that will come as a result of it. But specific to your questions, I'm not aware of an option for us unless it's agreed upon ahead of time for us to bill for services for traffic direction at the business.
Along those lines, Chief, so based on what you just said, would it be possible for either the developer or Chick-fil-A, I'm not sure where this would fall, to contract with through the reserve program as churches did in the past? Is that still existing?
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. We certainly want to help them out. We want it to be successful. We want to limit, any complications or confrontations. But that's absolutely possible. As you all know, one of the biggest challenges I have today is staffing issues, and that includes with the Reserve Officer Program. There will be significant challenges to meet the need.
Madam President, can I answer one? Continue on with what Mr. Jolly was talking about, the cost recovery. I was just looking at our ordinance, and the ordinance says that the purpose of the ordinance is to enable the city to require reimbursement from those individuals and entities who receive direct benefits from emergency medical, fire, police, and department services provided by the city for those persons responsible for the threatened release of chemical and different problems. Our ordinance talks about responding to emergencies, accidents, fires, things like that. It doesn't talk about, and that's what I think what the chief was talking about, it doesn't talk about we put in a development and that caused traffic and we have to have a police officer out there. So I don't believe that we could bill anybody from the cost recovery, but there may be able to contract with the department if they want the additional services. That would be my opinion on it.
So no, in other words, Mr. Bernier, no provision for spicy chicken sandwiches and waffle fries. Got it.
I'll leave that up to them.
Councilmember Jolly.
So I appreciate that opinion from the chief and Mr. Bernier. Is it a situation where we can add a provision to the approval that cites that if it's necessary, that they would be responsible to contract with Livonia Police to provide traffic enforcement and direction? Can we add that as an item here? Because to be frank with you, absent it, I hope they don't need it, but absent it, I'm very concerned that this is going to be an absolute disaster, not just from like a backup kind of delay and more traffic, but If it's done the wrong way, it's going to be, who knows what's going to happen. So can you, I mean, Mr. Tormina, Mr. Bernier, is that something we can add if necessary? The petitioner will be required to contract with LPD for traffic enforcement and direction.
Mr. Termina, I'll let you handle that one.
Put the language in there, and since a contractual arrangement is possible, according to Chief, then absolutely that language can be added. And I believe, and I'll let the petitioner speak to this, but I believe when that was discussed at the Planning Commission, they indicated a willingness to do that.
And I think, Mr. Chairman, when I asked the question at the study meeting, you had indicated that the petitioner had expressed a willingness to do that, and I think that was the answer. Councilmember Jolly.
Last time on this issue, I promise, would Mr. Barr, are you amenable to adding that as a stipulation in your approving motion?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
And then if that's in there, I'm in support, but absent it, I don't think I am in support.
All right, so then we need support again, right? Since this is the maker accepted it, so we're fine. Councilmember Toy.
Thank you. Just real quick. It occurs to me, and I'm anxious to hear from the traffic person. I know you're trying to get there, Madam President, but it occurs to me that that road, after being on it for 42 years, with my business being near Inkster Road in Plymouth, and now Plymouth near, where am I, near Bill Brown Ford, Farmington Road there in Hubbard. That road was built for over 60,000 cars a day, if I'm not mistaken. And I could be totally wrong on that, or maybe it's a week, I don't know, at some point. But I have a concern, which I didn't voice last time, which I don't want to get into, but with the right-hand turn, you've already got tons of congestion, if you want to get technical, over where Costco is and Menards and all those Popeye chicken. Look at the Culvers over there. If you go over there in the evening and happen to get a burger, you're going way out into the, those businesses are successful, and they're going out into the road that is the entryway into that ancillary road there. So, you know, if we're shifting everybody to the right, we may have more of a problem than in that regard. I don't know. I'm not an expert in this, but I'd certainly like to hear from the traffic person that's represented the developer. And I'd also like to know if you're using any local construction people as they proceed with the construction thereof, you know, the facility phase 1, 2, or 3, or all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And at this time, I know that Mr. Darbu has his hand up, but I don't know if you'd like to speak, or if we want to. I think the council had asked to go to the traffic consultant, but Mr. Darbu, I will, you should be unmuted.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time for consideration for approval on this development. If you'd like to go to the traffic study, for it sounds like you guys want to get there, talk to Mr. Labadie first, that's fine. I just have some answers to some of your questions. One major concern is, you know, the stacking that Councilman Jolly had brought up. I thought we did in the last meeting show you a plan of the traffic, how we would stack majority of the traffic that's going to be visiting the site on site. You know, Chick-fil-A and Novi is an acre and a half, barely in that. And then on our site, we have about almost 8 acres to work with. So totally different dynamic, totally different study. Is Mr. Tormina there? Could you possibly pull that plan up? If he's not, I mean, we can bring it back here in a minute. No big deal. But that's, I mean, we had that plan. We had showed it. I can't remember if we showed it to the Planning Commission or to you as well, but we can show you that as well again. So if you want to go to Mr. Labadie, I'm sure he's got some answers for you, but I can answer any other questions that you're thinking of.
Madam President.
Yes, Vice President Barr.
I would like to go to Mr. Labadie, but just to help focus his comments, I mean, he can share whatever he wants, but the reason I wanted to talk to him, I'm assuming as a traffic consultant, he's not here so much to talk about what happens within the property, but is what happens around the property. And as you know, I unfortunately was not able to be present on the meeting last week, but I did watch it later. And there was some comments made about changes in timing to the light at the intersection there that they expected to improve traffic flow on Middle Belt. But as I recall, we didn't really get much elaboration on what that was. And so that was why I wanted to talk to the traffic consultant. I'd like to better understand what is happening there. I assume they've talked to the county and how they expect it to affect traffic flow to this site.
Thank you. Mr. Jarbu, we now have the whole, diagram of all the phases up in the traffic. And I do believe we saw this last week. I don't know if you wanted to talk to this or just use this for Mr. Labadie's discussion, but would you like to comment on this before we go into Mr. Labadie?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I just wanted to show everybody, as what we feel, how we could stack cars in the parking lot. Basically, we're a vacant site to begin with. And by the time we go to phase 2 or 3, hopefully by then the honeymoon phase will be done with the Chick-fil-A, and we can, they can do continuous business as usual. But again, comparing this site to Novi and even to the Haggerty site, the Northville site, it's totally two different dynamics. We have almost 8 acres on site that we can use, directing where the cars will be staged as they will go through the line and how they will exit. This has been done time and time again with Chick-fil-A, as you've seen a number of store openings, and they've been very successful at it. They've done a very good job at it. I feel like they've done a good job at it. Maybe sometimes when you go through there and things just don't go right, it's human error on, maybe getting the order wrong or doing something different, or, people just get, a little bit worried. But I think for the most part, they've done a great job. So, Councilman Jolly, I just wanted to point this plan out. I didn't know if you had seen it, but I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
All right, thank you. At this time, I think if no one has any additional questions for Mr. Jarbu, we will go to Mr. Labadie. Mr. Labadie, I think that you should be, let's see, there we go.
Good. Can everyone hear me?
We can.
Oh, good. Gosh, it's kind of hard to decide where to start with this, but if you...
I'm sorry, could you start by giving us your name and...
Mike Labadie, I work with Rural Professional Services. My office is in Farmington Hills, 27280 Haverty Road, Suite C2.
Thank you.
Let's go. I know you have questions, but maybe I could answer them if I went through it a little bit. Maybe that would help. First of all, the notion that the Chick-fil-A has a honeymoon period is a lot like a lot of these places. Sonic has the same kind of thing. They have a honeymoon period, and then eventually it gets to normal. The study that we did, that we completed, was scoped through comment. In other words, what we had to study was scoped with the city, the county, and the state. MDOT owns Plymouth Road. Wayne County owns Middle Belt Road. So both of them have copies of the study. They have not weighed in entirely on this yet. They did tell us what they wanted studied, and we studied it. But the traffic volumes that we used for the study are not honeymoon volumes. They're once it becomes steady state. So you have to have a traffic management plan for the initial couple of months. So that, and Chick-fil-A knows that, and that's the beginnings of a plan that was presented as what Frank was just talking about. So kind of get that straight. So what I'm talking about is after it gets to steady state, let's discuss that. First thing is that the traffic signal timing and phasing at the intersection of Plymouth and Middle Belt is the traffic signal timing and phasing that was set up for the construction of I-96. For when I-96 was one way, they had planned, MDOT had planned a lot of traffic to use Plymouth Road, so it was set up for that, and they never got around to changing it back. We found that out when we contacted MDOT to determine why is this thing operating so poorly? Because Middle Belt has double the traffic that Plymouth does. Even if you look at Google Maps, you'll see the queues that are there, and there are no queues on Plymouth. So there's some issues with that just because of the timing that they did that. The second thing is, though, even if they went back to what pre-I-96 project, there are things that need to be done there based on the traffic demand right now that I want to try to explain them to you, but just make sure that I'm trying not to make it any more complicated than it is, but it is somewhat of a challenge. For example, if you have a lot of traffic and you need green time, but you can't give it green time because you have to allocate pedestrian crossing time for the opposite direction, you need push buttons to do that. Push buttons for pedestrians. You don't have those out there. So that needs to happen. A left turn overlap phase for all the approaches that do not have one. That's I don't know if you've seen them, it looks a little bit like a doghouse. When the left turn goes, left turn arrow goes off, you'll get a right turn arrow in the opposing direction so that you can move traffic better while all the other directions are stopped. The time for the cycle length and the physical timing of the various phases has to be redone, and our report has all that information in it. MDOT has agreed that it is a faux pas, that they never changed it back yet, but they're talking about it and they're working on it. We are working with them to get the necessary improvements, which is going to be some modifications to the signal, additional push buttons, things like that. And the signal is going to operate better, and the congestion is going to be a little bit more balanced and operate better. But that's an existing condition problem. But Frank has said that he's going to step up, help with that, even though it's something that Wayne County and MDOT should be fixing. The second thing is we have and I don't want to contradict anything, but I did spend quite a few years working for Oakland County Road Commission back in the day. And I don't think that the city has jurisdiction in posting no left turn signs when it's the Wayne County owns the road. I think Wayne County has to write up the traffic control orders and get those approved. But Wayne County hasn't weighed in on this yet. So I think tonight you should take it into account. I think one of the commissioners said, or councilman said, that we'll deal with the recommendations by the agencies, which is Wayne County and MDOT. Now, if you start moving, and I think Councilman Barr had the right idea, you start eliminating movements, then that causes people to go in a different direction and become an imposition someplace else. But if you start eliminating too many movements, then the development's going to have a heck of a time surviving. The traffic demand doesn't stay if you can't get in and out at all, or you can't get back to where you want to go. So Wayne County and MDOT will both have something to say about it, but they'll have to approve the permits, and so that's coming. They just haven't done that yet. So it's a good idea to approve it with, having to take into account the comments and requirements of Wayne County and MDOT. I might be wrong about that jurisdiction thing for the traffic control order, but back in the day, it used to be that way. I have tried to contact, or I have put in requests to contact again, Wayne County and MDOT, they are still looking at the study and they're still considering what to do. So I can't say any more than that's where that's going. Now, as far as the study goes with respect to how you figure out traffic operations and levels, things called levels of service and delay and all that, those are in the study that were submitted with the application. It's pretty deep, boring stuff, but if you want to talk about that, we can. But know that Wayne County and MDOT have people that are looking at that and know what they're looking at. So I think you should be good if you went ahead and approved with that contingency. So as far as asking any more questions, maybe I answered them, maybe I didn't.
I know that Mr. Barr's got his hand up, but I just wanted to make sure I understood something, Mr. Labadie.
Sure.
You just, kind of assured us that MDOT and Wayne County are on top of this, but did I misunderstand that MDOT, when the I-96 project was completed six and a half years ago, never fixed the traffic light to how it was supposed to be?
Correct.
Okay, so, and I'm not picking on MDOT, but thank you for answering my question. Vice President Barr?
Yeah, first of all, thanks. You did answer my question. Thank you, Mr. Labadie. That was, I appreciate that. And I do have the same question as Councilman McIntyre. Wait a minute. All these years later, they still haven't fixed it? At the same time, I'm delighted, because if this is the epiphany that helps improve traffic flow at that intersection already, then this is a great find. And thanks for finding that. My one question, I think, for you, Mr. Labadie, is I know you said you're working on it. Do you have any sense of timing? And is there anything that we as a city ought to be doing to help move this along? Maybe it's completely outside of our scope. It sounds like it might be, but.
Well, I think the idea here, if you kind of look back what happened with the Planning Commission, is that there was a contingency that these items related to the traffic signal and all that have to be completed before a C of O. So I think that unless things have changed, that was somewhere near the end of the year.
And you said MDOT is the one that actually owns the light at that intersection. I know Wayne County has Middlebelt, but MDOT owns the light.
That's the way it always goes. If MDOT has a road and you have an intersecting road, MDOT owns the intersection.
Okay.
So that was going to be the change in design and the additional items and all that stuff that has to happen at that intersection are going to be through a permit with MDOT. Now, there's also a possibility that this signal, this intersection is up for modernization by MDOT within the next year or so, which we don't know that yet, but MDOT was looking at it. But when I talked with them about this probably over a month and a half ago, they admitted that was the problem. But I think they did not know whether at that point it was on their schedule to get modernized. But this might help to move it up the flagpole. That might save Frank some money. But
okay, Madam President, I do have some last comments. I'm more persuaded of the direction I offer now than I was at the beginning, and I'll explain later. But I see other hands up. If those are related to traffic, please feel free to go to them first if they want to ask questions.
Councilmember Jolly, do you have a traffic? Oh, I'm sorry, Jim. Paul, did you want to make a comment before I go to Jolly?
I just wanted to clarify one thing that Mr. Labadie said. He's absolutely right. The city of Livonia cannot just stick out a no left turn sign there. That's not our road. That's the county road. We can't put out a sign there. There is this whole separate issue, though, on whether or not this council can still make the plans based upon them getting the county to turn left out there. So they are two different things. Just because we as a city can't put a no left turn sign out there doesn't mean that the city council can't make it a requirement that it gets out there before it's approved. So they are two separate things.
Got it. Thank you for that clarification. Councilmember Jolly.
Thank you. I have no concerns in the long run in regards to traffic impact. And I think, changing the light and things of these natures will help probably what's out there already. But during this honeymoon period, I'm looking at the diagram that's on the screen right now. I guess a couple questions here to Mr. Taormina and Mr. Bernier, if necessary. When we see temporary blocked off intersections with cones during opening, is the developer free to do things of this nature as they please in terms of blocking things off? I understand they're trying to put together a plan here that mitigates impact as best as possible, but I'll be honest with you, I look at this diagram and it scares me because I see every one of these red lines being not a path to follow, but rather a line of cars that is going to circle this entire property, and they're going to come in from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different points. I'm just being honest with you. I think if we were going to do this appropriately, I would want to see something in terms of a better traffic plan here, or at least have Mr. Taormina involved in a better traffic plan, or having an administrative approval for a better traffic plan than this one is, because you have all this empty parking here that's further to the south in front of the proposed Chick-fil-A, and then extending down eastward, into this phase 3 area that's marked as parking currently. Is there not a way that you could utilize and create lanes of traffic here to kind of build out some of this bulk of the cars that are going to be lining up on the roadways and circling this whole property? I guess that's what I would like to know. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I don't see much of a plan for this opening. And given it is the opening, but I think we can probably expect this to be a couple months at least, right? 3-4 months probably. I mean, that's my thoughts. Listen, as long as that contract provision is in the approving here, I'll approve it. But I think we have more work to do to kind of mitigate the opening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember McCullough.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a touch base, and this might, maybe there's a point of clarification, but again, listed in the Planning Commission, I think that if I got this right, the traffic plan must be submitted 6 weeks prior to the grand opening, and I would assume that would be approved administratively. Am I correct on that? That might be through the chair to Mr. Taormina. That might answer the questions, because obviously the plan we're looking at right now obviously is very early, and I know the petitioner did say that these things could change. I just kind of want to make sure that, and maybe to Councilmember Jolly's point, that this does get captured. This is part of the 6-week submission, is the stacking plan.
Yeah, absolutely correct, Councilman McCullough. This was a starting point, and the petitioner recognized that during the Planning Commission review. We discussed precisely what Mr. Jolly has suggested, and that is taking advantage of the parking lot here and queuing up the traffic in some way that would, I think, really avoid the kind of congestion that this plan suggests at this particular drive approach. So yes, this is subject to change. It would be reviewed by Traffic Bureau and administratively approved prior to the grand opening. And with respect to the blockage of this driveway, again, that's something that Traffic Bureau would have to agree on. Whether or not that's the best solution, I don't know. If it allows one-way traffic, that might be an option. I'm not sure at this point, Mr. Jolly and Mr. McCullough. Hope that answers it.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you. I see that Mr. Labadie would like to add another comment. I have a question to ask, and Mr. Labadie might be the correct person to answer this. I am fairly certain that the opening / honeymoon period could be modeled, that we could see a traffic model on that. Chick-fil-A has a lot of data about their volumes when they open. We know all the dimensions here. I don't see that we're missing any piece of data that wouldn't allow us to see some modeling of how many cars we can expect to see in the queue, you know, first week, second week, and however long the honeymoon period lasts. Personally, I would find that, I wouldn't, and I know I'll just say I would find that very, very helpful. And I wouldn't necessarily have to have that tonight, but knowing that the council was going to have that information, and not the council's part of it, but certainly Mr. Taramina, the traffic bureau, all the other parties would give me a lot of comfort. All right, Mr. Labadie.
Thank you. The one thing that we all have to understand about this plan is that it was something that Chick-fil-A put together rather quickly, trying to take advantage of the site. And it's a draft. They did not say there's anything sacred about this. They just said this is the way this is a beginning, but it'll give you some idea what they were thinking. Either way, again, we keep forgetting that the two roads are owned by somebody other than the city. So we need to, if you're going to have a plan here, which is, I think, been the failure of some of the other sites by some of the other communities, is not including the road agencies in there. And I think that your concerns are absolutely valid. And from Chick-fil-A's point and Frank's point of view, they want to make sure everybody's happy and they want this to work. So getting a team together that's going to evaluate this and come up with a plan needs to include somebody from Wayne County and somebody from MDOT. So just to kind of make that point, that's the point I wanted to make. The other, to your question.
Mr. Labadie,
yep.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to make a comment. When you say people are forgetting or they're not realizing that these roads are owned by the state and the county, I'm not sure whom you're referring to.
We need to make sure they're included in the effort to come up with a traffic management plan for the honeymoon period. That's my point.
Absolutely. I mean, we are, right. we have a lot of projects, as you can imagine, that we've done on corners where there's a multi-jurisdiction or multi-ownership of the.
I think, but I think in some of the other Chick-fil-A's, I think that's been a mistake. It seems, at least my observation, is that they haven't really, they meaning that the agencies and the cities haven't actually dealt with that in the right way. It doesn't seem like the effort just seems to be a little bit lacking. As far as modeling this, modeling meaning showing how many cars could be stacked up in a drawing and how it would all work, I think that is a requirement. I would agree with you on that. We'd have to figure all that out. As far as getting it, simulating it, that's a little more difficult than you think. But we wouldn't need necessarily to do that. We would be able to have some sort of a honeymoon demand during certain time periods. Probably the worst time periods is what we should do. And then once we have a traffic management plan put together that the team agrees with, then we'll be able to show how the cars are going to be stacked and how they're going to be lined up and all that. And that would be probably, I don't know if the administrative approval would mean that would come back to you or not, but.
Administrative, I just want to clarify, administrative approval means that it does not have to come back to the council for approval. It means that we're saying that the administration can go ahead and approve it.
Well, it seems that this is a hot enough topic and concern enough that at least the final plan and the model would be something that should be shared with you. That's all.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So it will be, and that's the plan. It's just this was put together at a kind of with a little bit of short notice, and how this is all going to come together. It may not look like this at all in the end. I don't know. That's kind of up to Frank and Chick-fil-A and the team.
All right, thank you. Do you have anything else, or does anyone in council have anything else from Mr. Labadie before I go back to Mr. Jarman?
Yes, please.
Councilmember Toy.
Thank you so much. Mr. Lavity, so as we look at the site plan itself, would you be adverse into having, because there's a lot of different ways I can go on this site. And to Councilman Jolly's earlier point when he was in Novi, and I noticed the same thing, you know, you tend to have issues with the other businesses around there being affected by your success. And it's a good thing, but it's not a good thing for those little retailers in there that may have other problems. I'm not talking about the traffic on Plymouth Road or Middlebelt. Been on that road for years. It's busy, I get it, and all that. But where I'm real concerned right now is your site plan, because you've got, you know, you're going in this way, you're going in that way, you're stacking cars this way, you're coming around this building. And right now it's cool because you're not into the other two phases that you're proposing. And we want you to succeed, and I want to approve this, but I've got a real problem with the patchwork, for lack of a better term to put it, and I'm not trying to be insulting, with this site plan. Where you need people directing traffic is inside your site plan.
Correct.
Not necessarily outside on the main streets that Wayne County and the state run. I get that. But inside this patchwork kind of thing you've created, going through, you know, different parking lots, going around buildings. I mean, I know a number of businesses in Livonia that would love to be able to do this kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? And I don't begrudge you. It's just, gosh, I'm thinking, is this going to be a problem in the long run? All of a sudden I'm hesitating. I don't want to do that to you. So help me understand that. Or is there a better way to do it? I know you need so many parking places for so much retail or whatever you're putting into these spots. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate all you're doing. But I'm really got to tell you, I'm having a problem as I look the way the traffic's going to flow through there. And you're more of an expert than I am. So help me maybe understand it or clarify it, sir.
Well, I think we have two different things that we're concerned about. The honeymoon period, and then maybe you're concerned about what is it going to do after the honeymoon period? Is that okay. Well, the honeymoon period is going to have a plan that is, at least in my mind, it should. I've done a lot of these, but I haven't worked on one for Chick-fil-A yet, and maybe I will, and maybe I won't on this. But they're going to have a plan that makes sense and that takes into account the adjacent businesses. So I don't think that that's something that they're not going to ignore it. So that'll be, honeymoon period will be what it's going to be, and but they will take into account and be very cognizant of the adjacent businesses. Okay. Afterward, there's going to be, most of the traffic is almost always contained within the Chick-fil-A site. If you notice, they have a queue storage in their drive-through for, I think, nearly 20 cars or more. So that's a double lane storage for, I think it's 20 or 24 cars. So when the honeymoon period is over, that for the most part, the Chick-fil-A site operates on its own. So there's not going to be any big blockages or anything like that.
Okay.
So it's not something that I think we really need to try and change for or plan for right now. What I think we need to do is make sure that traffic management, the honeymoon traffic, is dealt with properly. That's all.
Okay, perfect. And Madam Chair, if I may, to you and others on the council, I would behoove us to at least get a report back after the honeymoon period's over. The council should have that information, and I think the administration will obviously share that, I would hope, with us, you know, and I'm sure they would, but just to note that in whatever we're doing on this site, that would be helpful, because we're the ones that are also answering to the public out there. You know, I mean, like I said, I've done business down there for years, and people come to you all the time. What's going on this corner? What's going on that? Why'd you do this? Why did you not do that? That helps me and the others that serve as elected, you know, folks here, you know, that meet citizens face to face, especially in those areas, to give them a good explanation of what's cooking. So if you wouldn't mind, Madam Chair, if we could, ask for a report, please, or some communication to follow it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Toy. Mr. Darbu, I see that you have your hand up again.
Yes, I just wanted to discuss a couple of different things. One, I want to call on Mr. Lurk. He's from Chick-fil-A. He'll help you better. He'll help explain better on what they will plan on doing with the stacking inside the actual site itself, and how their team members will be able to work and to move people along. I think we have a little bit of data on how many cars we could probably even stack on here if you count them linear feet. But before we go to Mr. Lurk, I just want to say I'm kind of my feelings are hurt a little bit here, because we do have phase 2 and phase 3 on this site plan, which we plan on doing. And I think it's an incredible development here. I mean, we are investing a tremendous amount of money and infrastructure and remodeling probably on phase 3 completely all 4 sides of the site, maybe just leaving up the steel structure, the brand new phase 2 of the retail that's going to be out there. And just to talk about Councilman Toy's question about how this could work with other retail tenants in this development. We, by the time, hopefully Chick-fil-A is open, honeymoon is done, we'll hopefully timing of that will also, when we have the rest of the retail open, so that, it doesn't affect them in any way. But, I do want to take a moment to maybe discuss or talk about, or if you have any questions about phase 2 or phase 3. I think it's an incredible development. I think it's enhancement to the community. Anything you need to know about it? I'm just wondering if any thoughts or any concerns about that.
Just a moment, Councilmember Toy, before I go back to you. Mr. Darbu, I hope you're understanding how excited everyone is about this development, about Chick-fil-A and the entire redevelopment. And, I'm sorry if I took exception or, as you put it, had your feelings hurt, but there's just, digest. And I know we spent a lot of time on it last night, but, I think that council members just want to understand, and it's not any thinking that you haven't thought through this. It's just being concerned and anticipating. We know from prior experience what kinds of questions and concerns we get. So I just want you to understand that there's, and I think you've heard it, and I don't think I'm speaking for anyone, tremendous excitement and enthusiasm for this project overall. So.
I was just joking about getting my feelings hurt, but thank you very much. And what I'd like to call on Mr. Lurk from Chick-fil-A.
Okay, just a minute. I'll call on Mr. Lurk in just a moment, but I believe that Councilmember Toy has another comment she wanted to make.
Sorry, yes.
No problem.
Sir, we're very excited about you coming and all the hard-earned dollars you're going to spend. But as I said, as elected officials, people do come to us, sir. So we have to have explanations for what we're doing. If you'd like, I'll give some of the phone calls and emails, both positive and negative. I'll direct them to you, and you can see kind of, what we deal with, which is part of our job, which we all enjoy. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not trying to be sarcastic. I'm just saying that's why I'm also asking you, if I may, and maybe you're not the proper person, are you going to use any local people to help develop these sites? Some of our developer people or, electricians, whatever, or, however. I just.
You did ask that question earlier. I'm sorry I did not answer it.
No, you're fine.
But we've been doing construction in southeastern Michigan for over 25 years, and we've used a tremendous amount of trades, not just trades, the local electrician, the local plumber, but actual people manufacturing product for us for these buildings in the Livonia community. You can see that, a number of sites that we've developed in Canton, Plymouth, Romulus, that we've gone to local suppliers, whether it be the stone guy, the like you said, the electrician, the mill, any type of product, and always local, and whatever we could do. It's always been what we've done.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much.
And I encourage any local trade, electrician, plumber, anything like that. This thing will go out to bid and be happy to bid on it. So.
Oh, you're awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam President.
Certainly. And at this time, I'd like to go to Mr. Lurk. And I think, Mr. Lurk, you were with us last week, correct? Oh, I need to, there we go.
Yes, Madam President.
You were with us last week, and thank you for joining us again. And I hope too that last week and this week, what you've heard is the great enthusiasm for this. You know, all of these questions are really originating from the fact that we know the great excitement and enthusiasm and dedication and devotion to the Chick-fil-A product that people have. So I know this has been, you know, what seems like interminable questions and discussion, but we are really excited that, you know, the Chick-fil-A name and the Chick-fil-A product. So thank you for coming back tonight, and please, whatever you'd like to share with us, we'll be happy to hear.
Sure, Madam President, thank you very much. We're excited as well. We understand your excitement. We appreciate your due diligence and the questions surrounding traffic. You know, we know there's a pent-up demand in the Detroit metro area for our product, and we look forward to bringing many more to the community. We're excited about Northville opening next week. We're excited about Shelby Township opening next week. We're excited about getting this one approved and bringing it to the city of Livonia. As we've mentioned, you know, most of the other sites that we're working on are not even close. They don't even hold a match to how big this site is. And, you know, Frank and his team have put together such a great plan to where they're doing phase 1 for Chick-fil-A, allowing us to utilize the entire 7-acre parcel. So, you know, I understand the concerns about traffic. I just did a few measurements here. First up, just around our building, we can accommodate 44 cars in our drive-through on our site before it stacks out to any of the internal drive aisles, right? And then if we look back at the draft traffic plan, the red lines that you saw all over the 7-acre parcel, if you just add up the red lines, that's over 2,000 linear feet of availability to stack cars. And if you're following along, you know, typically your cars are no more than 20 feet long, right? So that's another 100 cars that you can have on the site before we would utilize the rest of the parking area to kind of snake through the parking area, which I think is what Mr. Jolly was referencing. And Mr. Jarbo has allowed us that opportunity to do that as well if needed. So I think we all have to understand that this site alone has capacity to hold 150 to 200 cars before it would stack out onto Middle Belt or Plymouth Road, which is very, very uncommon for a retail center. As Mr. Jarbo stated, most of the other sites we're working on are an acre, acre and a half, acre and a quarter, something like that. This is over a 7-acre site. So it doesn't look that big when you look at the overall site plan because there's 100,000 plus square foot building right next to us. So it looks like a small site plan, but I just wanted to give that context that over 150 cars can be on this development before they would spill out or stack on to Plymouth and Middle Belt. And me as a customer, I'm an avid customer of Chick-fil-A as well. If I see a line over 100 cars deep, I'm probably just going to keep on going, right? So customers have that choice as well, right? Maybe give us another shot at a different time. Regarding the traffic and utilizing the city police force, that is something that we said we were amenable to, and doing a contract there. We want to make sure that all of the customers are safe. They can get onto this development safely, and they can leave this development safely, and leave the development with a warm smile and a warm meal. Okay. So those were just some of the key things that I had pointed in on, but we're super excited. This is this is the latest and greatest plan that we could bring to you, a double drive-through lane all the way around our building, plus a 7-acre site to queue all the cars on. So we're certainly excited and understand the traffic concerns, but we're really hopeful that this is going to be such a great project to bring to the city of Livonia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lork. And I think too, you maybe helped us get some level set here. And, you know, and again, our ideas about the traffic and the intensity, you know, are just driven from, we know how much people love this product, but I think you brought a good perspective in here that helps us, you know, get a handle on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at 100 cars. Most people are going to say, I'll come back, you know, at the non-peak time. And maybe that's 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. There probably aren't a lot of non-peak times, but thank you for that. If no one else has any immediate questions, I would at this time like to go to Matt and Allison Knopsider, who have very patiently been waiting to ask a question. And again, I hope you understand that no attempt to deliberately delay your question. And with no further ado, if you could, I think you should be able to address us now.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
We can.
Great. Thank you so much. First, I'd like to thank all the council members for their time tonight. This is my wife and I's first attempt at any local politics, so please be patient with us as we're learning this.
Let me just say, absolutely, and this doesn't cut into your time for comments. We so appreciate our engaged citizens. So just, you know, we're delighted you're here. You can't make a mistake. So we're anxious to hear what you have to say. And now I will stop talking, I promise.
Thank you so much, Madam President. So I've lived in Livonia my whole life. I lived off of West Chicago and Louise, just a half a mile from this corner my whole life. I'm a little over 30 years old. And then we recently moved to the street, Elmira, that is closest to this corner. And we've lived here for the past 5 years in July. And we do have extreme concerns about traffic, having been so close recently to it, and then seeing the growth and change over time of this intersection from me being a child with Wonderland Mall to it changing so much drastically since then. So some of the concerns that I just like to address and bring to your attention are not necessarily just the overflow traffic that could occur from outside of the site, from the drive-through. But there are, you know, on the plans that were laid out, I didn't notice the bus stop indications that are there currently on Middle Belt and Plymouth Road, and know that as things start to open up more in our state, coming around the time that maybe when the site would be open, that people might be utilizing more public transit, and that those bus stops, I wasn't sure if that was addressed as all for traffic concerns as bringing more pedestrian traffic to that location because of such a popular fast food chain being there, as well as the traffic at that intersection does cause very much a ripple effect upon the northern part near 96, southern near Joy, and then even west towards the front of the Walmart and the other businesses that are there. And so when we hear things that, you know, it's potential of 150 cars that can hold that lot, and the honeymoon period is approximately 200 to 300, when those leftover 150 to 200 cars that are spilling out into the roads, I'm concerned with the normal flow of traffic for people commuting to 96, maybe going to other businesses past that location, as well as access to other businesses located on that corner. I know that there is an urgent care that is across from there that could potentially be impacted with blocked traffic and people not able to get urgent care as needed, as well as the fire station that is also a half a mile away up northern Middle Belt Road. I will say that since I've been working from home over almost the last year, I've been paying attention to that corner more than I'd like, because that's pretty much all I can see out my backyard. But I will say that even within the first full week of January in this year, at least twice a day, I've heard sirens go through that intersection during peak times. And so my wife and I just have general concerns of us being able to get out of our neighborhood effectively during that honeymoon phase, during the peak times of in the morning, lunch, and rush hour traffic, especially as when this site opens up. I know that I work downtown primarily, but since I've been home, in the summer, more people are going to be commuting. And I don't know if necessarily a proper traffic estimate of that honeymoon phase will be accurate, as people will be excited to leave their home and go to places and actually go out to eat. I feel like a 200 to 300 car estimate could potentially be underestimating the actual attention that this site could receive. So there's just a lot of concerns that we have overall, the functionality of the neighborhood. While the business boom of money and inflow would be amazing, I'm afraid that there might be a little more long-term effects that may not be necessarily noticed because of the excitement. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was that Middle Belt is a sensitive road itself physically. And oftentimes when there is construction needed on that road, it is quite a backup, even minor construction. And with the amount of traffic and cars coming around that road and traveling that road in whatever way it is, I feel like any future construction and or repairs due to harsh winters and potholes could also impact negatively the flow of traffic there in a way that I don't know if we're able to predict at this time. But yeah, those are just some of the concerns that we have.
All right, thank you very much. Again, really appreciate your patience and so appreciate your very thoughtful comments based on, your observations. And you make a very good point. With people home for most of this past year, right? There really is an opportunity to really look at what goes on with traffic, not just, on your streets and adjacent roads, but really throughout the city, because that's where we're spending most of our time. I will add one comment, and then I'll ask if any of the other council, I would see when we talk about asking about the developer and Chick-fil-A's willingness, and we've heard that they very much are, to utilize a program we have for contracting with our reserve officers to manage traffic. And also, I do want to note what Chief Cade said, and that is that we do have, we're challenged with officer staffing right now, both in our full-time officers and our reserve, but that I think that would include, looking at the streets, the residential streets that are adjacent to this, and making sure that during the honeymoon period, we weren't creating a situation where no one can get out to go to the grocery store or wherever they need to go. Would anyone else on council like to add anything before I go to the council member Toy?
Thank you. If I may, to the gentleman that was speaking, I just have to ask, I went all through school, elementary, with a Knopf-Schneider. Do you happen to be related to Dale or Kathy Knopf-Schneider?
Yes, Dale is my father, actually.
Oh, please tell him hello for me.
I will absolutely do that.
Lincoln Elementary School behind the turkey farm.
Yep.
And Kathy and I were in Girl Scouts together.
Oh, okay. That's great.
Thank you, Council. I know you wanted to hear that. Okay,
all right. Well, thank you. We always appreciate council members' Toys, connections and Livonia history. So thank you. And that's neat. Small world. All right. Thank you very much again for your comments, and feel free to reach out to any of us with additional questions or concerns. And at this time, I'll go to Amanda Carvalho. And just before that, I want to apologize, Mr. Jarbo. Apparently, I've been mispronouncing your name, and I'm very sorry for that.
That's okay. No problems.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello. We can hear you.
It's just for comments regarding Chick-fil-A or for all general comments right now.
Pardon me? This is on Chick-fil-A only.
Oh, okay. Then can I wait? I'm sorry.
Yes, there will be audience communication at the end of the regular meeting agenda once we get through the rest of our items. So if you just stay on, and you'll hear when we announce the second audience communication. All right. Thank you. Vice President Barr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam President. I had no idea when I said that I'd say my final comments till the end that I'd be waiting so long.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No apology to you. It's just a lot of good questions, a lot of discussion. So, so going back to where we started on this, was the question about the left turn. I have one quick question for Paul Bernier, and then I've got my final comments. But it came up earlier that we don't have the ability to put a left turn signal on Middle Belt, which I would understand. I know there's one over on Plymouth right now that's across the road, and that would be I can understand how that wouldn't be ours. But I just want to clarify: do we not have the ability, and does a development not have the ability to put a no left turn within their property?
They can put all the signs they want on their property. It's not an enforceable traffic order, though.
Got it. Okay, understood. All right. So that being said, though, I know that it was mentioned that we could put that as a condition for this. The resolution I've offered has been not to do that. And I just want to take off a few thoughts that I've had as I've listened to everyone. Number one, let's remember that when we're talking about putting a left turn restriction there, what we're doing is restricting traffic flow out. We're doing nothing to manage the traffic that we've spent 90% of our time talking about, which is on Middle Belt and Plymouth Road. It's not helping that at all. In fact, as I argued earlier, I think it's actually making it worse because of the dynamics that it creates. Number two, Councilman Donovic mentioned the no left turn on the southwest corner of the intersection. I assume that's what he was talking about, coming out of Walmart. I think, Councilman Donovic, your point's well taken, but I think the difference there is within that development, it's very easy just to go to one of the 2 or 3 or 4 exits further west on the property to go out. So that's not a hardship for people, and all it takes is 1 or 2 times going over there, and you just know that. In that vein, I do think too, even with a project like this, as we've said, no matter what we do here, this is going to be a little bit of a hairy situation for a while. But people will figure it out. They'll figure, I mean, anybody that shops frequently just the mile north of there at Middle Belt 96 knows that you figure out the best ways to get out of those developments over time. I also found it interesting, and I hadn't caught this before, that the southernmost entrance along Middle Belt that had been suggested we put a left turn lane isn't even part of what we're considering tonight. So even if we were to put that condition on this property, what we're doing is just forcing people over to that, which is even closer to the intersection and is more of a problem. Even absent that, I think if we closed off both the left-hand turns, what we're doing is encouraging people to come out of the drive-through and circle around the building, Chick-fil-A, counterclockwise, through all that traffic again, that is the 2-lane wide drive-through, to get to the northernmost entrance. I'll maintain again that I think, even though I understand the intent, I think that we're creating more problems than we're solving by asking for a left turn restriction there. And even if it turns out in the future that would be the wise decision, which is a possibility, I'd rather err on the side of not doing it now and have us or the county, or I guess it'd be the county in this case, deal with that later than dealing with that now. Last but not least, just the comment, I think it was Councilman McCullough said earlier, this could be a catalyst not just for that corner, but all the way over to Inkster. I completely agree. And it just brought to mind about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, I put into committee the subject of looking at what options we had to spur legal tools and economic incentives we had at our disposal to spur development along that stretch, which is one of the 3 focus areas in our master plan. That's sitting in committee right now. I think it's in the Strategic Planning and Economic Development Committee. And I just want to encourage us. I think it's it's Councilman Jolly that chairs that committee. I vice chair it, but we should try to bring that up soon, especially with this coming on. It'd be a perfect time to have that discussion. So I'm all set. I'm fully in support of this and look forward to voting for it.
All right, thank you. I see that another audience member would like to speak. Sarah Overwater.
Yes, thank you. So first of all, I know this is not really part of what you're talking about since you're talking about traffic and things like that, but I do think that it is very disappointing to see so many people be so excited for Chick-fil-A when they have such a history of donating to anti-LGBTQ plus groups. I think that's really sad. And I don't think that reflects well on the council. And I don't think it reflects particularly well on the community as well. Additionally, As far as traffic concerns go, I don't personally live close to that area. I'm on the other side of town. But I do have concerns in general about the double drive-through lanes that people put up and how much that encourages people to sit in their cars with their engines on, idling, and contributing to the bad air quality in the city. So that's my comment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Overwater. I just would like to address one of the comments that Ms. Overwater made, and I understand this is a fairly new technology and available only on probably on late model cars, and that is and I used to know the name of it and probably knew it an hour ago. Basically, when you are stopped, your engine stops, and when you move again, your engine restarts, and that is a big jump forward in technology in reducing emissions from idling vehicles or vehicles that are idling vehicles are stopped. And it's instantaneous. It stops its traffic lights and restarts. So thank you, Ms. Overwater. I don't know if anyone else wanted to address Ms. Overwater's comments. Councilmember Donovic.
Thank you, Madam President. Just real quick, thank you to Vice President Barr for his comments. I will be supporting his motion. I still have concerns about turning left, but I am going to, Mr. Levity made some good explanations, and I do have confidence that the traffic plan will be viable come time of the opening of this business. And I'm really looking forward to this development and the economic greatness it's going to add to this corner and to our community. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember Donovic. Anyone else? Before we ask Ms. Nash, our city clerk, to take the vote on this. So what we have is approving resolution offered by Vice President Barr, supported by, supported by Councilmember Toy on the resolution that would not revise condition 10, but I think we've asked for some additional clarification, if you will, about support for traffic enhancements or reinforcements as needed. Is that correct?
Council President, if I might, the way I had it written down for the attorney notes was approving by Scott Barr, supported by Laura Toy, with the required contract provision for police assistance in traffic control as needed.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. Bernier. You were able to articulate that much better than I could. Councilmember Toy.
Madam Chair, could Councilman Barr, if you wouldn't mind, Councilman Barr, would you just add that little piece about after the honeymoon that we could get a report or an update on that, if you wouldn't mind?
Ongoing, maybe ongoing.
However you phrase it.
Traffic.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Back to that, Councilman.
How do you envision that working, Councilman Toy? I don't really want to belabor this with over-regulation reporting. I'm not really sure how we'd enforce that, to be honest with you.
I don't want to enforce it. I just want to be informed. That's all. I just want to know that. That's all. Like a report, just
a report on what?
On the update of what they found or didn't find or whatever, how it's going, basically. You know what I mean? That's what I envision. Maybe I'm envisioning it wrong, but or maybe I
I think, I mean, the traffic. I think Councilman Toy, I appreciate your question. I'd rather not. I think that's something that we can handle separate. I'm not saying we shouldn't get it. I just think we can handle it separate from this resolution versus making it a formal part of this. I think we can get access to that information when it's available.
No worries. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, but I think we can note, Councilmember Toy, what you like, on an ongoing basis. So thank you.
Okay.
Right, then I think we can go ahead and take the vote. If you would please call the vote, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember White?
No.
Councilmember McCullough?
Yes.
Councilmember Donovic?
Aye.
Councilmember Jolly?
Aye.
Councilmember Toy?
Aye.
Vice President Barr,
Aye.
President McIntyre.
Aye. And so was that six?
6-1.
6 and 1 no. Thank you. So the resolution passes. Thank you, everyone. All right. With that, we move on to item, I want to make sure I've got this right. Was that item, that was item 7? I've got my notes out of order.
It's item 17. We're ready for 18.
17, that's what I thought. I just want to make sure I was right. So now we go to item 18, which is an acceptance of grant of easement. This comes to us from the Department of Law, secured without monetary consideration from 18th Street Development for a public utility easement connection with a water main constructed at 3900 39000 7 Mile Road in the southeast quarter of Section 6. Parcel ID is 46-023-99-0001-004.
So move.
All right. Councilmember Jolly, sorry.
I'll offer an approving resolution. Thank you.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Who seconded? Who supported it? I'm sorry, people were talking over each other. Who supported that? I know I have Mr. Jolly with the resolution. Who supported it?
I thought, am I confused? Well, usually.
No, it's not, but the people were talking over each other.
I thought Councilmember Toy offered the resolution and Jolly supported. Is that not?
Okay. That's okay. Fine.
Whatever works.
Okay. All right. Any discussion? Any comments from the audience? If not, Clerk, would you please go ahead and take the vote on this acceptance of grant of easement?
Sorry. Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Councilmember Jolly.
Aye.
Councilmember Toy.
Aye.
Vice President Barr.
Aye.
President McIntyre.
Aye, and the grant of easement is accepted unanimously. Now we move on to new business, number 19. This is a request to approve the Livonia Police Officers Association, POAM, collective bargaining agreement for the period December 1st, 2020 through November 30th, 2023, and this comes to us from the Civil Service Department. Council. Member Jolly?
Madam President, I'll offer an approving resolution of this item.
Support from Council Member Toy, and I will go first to Ms. Mayer, our Director of Human Resources.
Good evening, Madam President, council members. I'm pleased to be before you this evening with a collective bargaining agreement between the City of Livonia and the Livonia Police Officers Association for the period of December 1, 2020 through November 30th, 2023. You have in your packet a summary that was provided by Greg Schultz, our labor attorney, outlining the key components of the tentative agreement that was agreed to by the city and the LPOA. We're very excited about this contract. The union was equally excited about this contract. We think it's going to be very beneficial not only to the employees, but to the city, in that it will help us to recruit and retain police officers. As you know, that's been a challenge for us in the last many years. So we're very excited about the new contract and recruiting and retaining quality police officers.
Thank you. Councilmember McCullough and then Councilmember Toy.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to first start off by thanking administration and our union for really diving deep into this and kind of crossing it and bringing it before us. This is something that, with us being down, I think it was 26 to 27 officers, and retention being a top issue with benefits, I think this kind of will pay dividends, especially once this gets resolved. And I think that Livonia we'll start being in place with applicants in line. So I'm in full support. I think this is going to be great, especially with the minimum vesting period of 15 years. I think this is going to establish career candidates, and especially our public safety, which is a cornerstone of our community. So kudos to all, and I'll be in full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember McCullough. Councilmember Jolly.
Thank you, Madam President. This is something that we as a council and as a city and as an administration have been looking at for quite a number of years. At the end of the day, this empowers the city of Livonia to attract and retain the best and brightest people in the police academies and police officers to serve our citizens and our community, and all the residents and the business holders and the people who work here. Without this, we found ourselves on a regular basis losing sworn Livonia police officers to neighboring communities on a regular basis. I have one colleague of mine who would send me a picture every single time a police officer from Livonia was recruited and sworn in elsewhere. This should hopefully stop that, and like I said, help retain and recruit the best and brightest who will be able to serve us and serve everybody who's in this community and travels here and works here and everything else to the best of the expectation and standards that are provided. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Toy and then Vice President Barr.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Others have put things into perspective, and well, this is a negotiation that the mayor has brought to us in a long time making, serving many years off and on this council and living here for many years. This is long time coming. Being down 31 officers in this community is not a good thing, particularly in light of everything we're experiencing, both in and around our areas. And it just behooves us to finally get our arms around it. And I would hope this solves it and that we can be in communication with everyone involved. And hats off to, as has been said, to the chief and all the men and women that have been involved in this, and hopefully they will continue their education and their knowledge on how our area is doing and changing, and all the latest and greatest kinds of tools and things and explanations that they can have as they face an ever-changing environment. So I wanted to give thanks to everyone involved, and let's hope that this helps start resolving some of these bigger issues that we've faced over the years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Toy. Vice President Barr.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. So this police contract, just for the community to know, who hasn't dug into the details of the contracts probably as much as we have, this mostly mirrors the contract that we approved for the firefighters a few months ago, and I was the lone no vote on that. And I explained my reasoning at that time. I'm going to ask my fellow council members forbearance because I'd like to take a few minutes to reiterate my concerns with it, just because this is a really important issue, and I want people to be crystal clear as to the rationale behind why I feel the way that I do. And so first and foremost, I 100% agree that police recruitment and retention is a critical issue that we need to solve. I 100% agree that we must improve our total compensation package to do that. And frankly, I want the best for our Livonia Police Department. When I hear that a nearby community pays significantly more than we do, my first reaction is, okay, what do we have to do to match it? This isn't about me wanting to go cheap. It's I want the best, and I know you have to pay for that. The thing is, when you're talking about compensation, the defined benefit plan, the pension plan, which gets so much attention with this, that's only one lever you have to pull. You have wages, you have defined contribution matches, there is the pension option. There's other things, as we even see in this contract with the 12-hour workday that's been added in here, that I know is something the police have been asking for, and the administration's done a great job working out a way that can work. That's another lever that we can pull. But my reasons for struggling so much with the pension approach is I think it's too risky for the city and for the officers. I think it's risky for the city because it commits our taxpayers to liabilities that will be the responsibility of future generations to meet. And even if you decide to change that in the future, it takes decades. It takes decades to turn around and go back. I won't take the time to go through examples of where that's happened, but it's a major concern of mine. And then for the police, I don't think it's in their best interest, because contrary to what often gets said about quote unquote guaranteed pensions, there's no such thing as a guaranteed investment. We've seen that with Detroit going bankrupt and what happened to their pensions. We can't pretend something's guaranteed that's not. And so for the police, in going back to a pension, we're now subjecting our first responders to the uncertainty of whether future administrations will responsibly invest that money. I have confidence in the people running the city now on this front. But even a place like Livonia that I know and love and have great confidence in, I don't have that level of confidence 40, 50 years in the future. I hope it's the case, but I don't. So I think it's risky for all parties involved. Just the principle that drives me on this is I feel like in any case, and this is what the private sector has gone to for a reason, is that employees should be paid in full now, not partially now with a promise to be paid later. And I have been very open to discussing what that wage and 401k match formula looks like. And I've even said I'm willing to overpay according to the actuarial tables in order to stay with that structure, if that's what it took to persuade our officers that this was in their best interest. It was a huge accomplishment 20 years ago when we were able to go to a DC plan. And I don't think it's wise to go back. Now, all that being said, I've actually wrestled very mightily with how to vote on this. Because if one concedes, and let's be honest, this is passing tonight whether I support it or not, okay? But if one concedes the pension point, this is a good contract in many ways for both sides. There are some very innovative things in this contract that have been put in there to protect the city, and I recognize that. And there is tremendous kudos that need to be given to the administration for working those things out. I very much appreciate that. And I also recognize, I do think this, I think it will solve our recruitment retention problem. I think this is going to make Livonia a destination for police officers. So I get all that. I just wish that there had been more openness to looking at some other alternatives that I think we could have looked at, but I didn't sense that there was any openness at all to do it. We've been stuck on this pension idea. But I will tell you, having struggled mightily with this, here's the kicker for me. I also think it's important to have the same approach for police and fire. And as I've struggled with this, I've ultimately settled on this. When we considered that fire contract several months ago, I made the same case I've made tonight. But I recognize the reality that this body decided at that time to go with a defined benefit plan for our public safety employees. And so it does make sense to do the same thing this time. And so despite my concerns, for those reasons, I will be voting yes on this tonight. Now, having said that, I just want to take one more minute to say something. I want to speak directly to our police officers. And I just want to say thank you. You had a tough job already that's been made a lot tougher in the last year. And I, for one, am really grateful for your service. I recognize your commitment. I admire you, and I think the vast majority of our community shares that view. And I know you're excited about this contract, and you should be. And I want to be the first one to congratulate you, and I look forward to our police department being fully staffed and continue to work with all you to provide the highest level of public safety for our community. Let's make this work. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Vice President Barr. Anyone else? Anyone from the audience who would like to address this issue? Now is your opportunity to do so. Calling once, calling twice. Third and final call for audience comments on this agenda item. Seeing none, I will ask the city clerk if you would please take the roll call vote on this.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough?
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic?
Aye.
Councilmember Jolly?
Aye.
Councilmember Toy? Councilmember Toy?
You're on mute.
Sorry, I'm not voting mute. I'm voting aye.
Pardon me?
Vice President Barr?
Aye.
Wait. What did? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm voting aye. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Vice President Barr is a yes. President McIntyre?
Yes. And so the contract is approved unanimously with the approving resolution. Thank you. All right, item number 20 is the request to approve the renewal of a joint declaration and resolution permitting temporary outdoor dining areas during the COVID-19 emergency. This comes to council president, myself, and Mayor Maureen Miller-Brosnan to allow for the approval of temporary outdoor dining areas in connection with the existing full and limited service restaurants in the city of Livonia.
So moved.
Support.
Support from
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, support from Donna. Mr. Taramina, are you there? Councilmember Toy?
Madam Chair, I'd like to tell or say to you, thank you very, very much for bringing this up again. You and the mayor, this is so needed in our community on so many levels. I just heard today that Castle over in Northville is going out after 27 years. They can't even go back in and open that restaurant again and hope. As a woman wrote this letter and a lady called me about it, saying, geez, I hope we're not doing this to our restaurants. Well, it's not that we're doing anything. This is a very serious kind of virus we're facing, you know, unlike we've seen and how it mutates and all this scientific stuff that God knows I don't want to even attempt to say. But what I'm saying is, I think we've got to be very sensitive to our local businesses, and not just because I own one, but I'm telling you, these are very, very tough times to keep employees, to make sure we're doing excellent work for our folks that patronize us. And most of us do that. I mean, I can't stress enough that you should be shopping local, whether it's Plymouth Road, 7 Mile, Middle Belt, whatever. Please go to your area pet stores. I know it's tempting to order over and online, but they really need your help right now. They really do, because a lot of these landlords are not stopping the rent for a lot of these folks. And when you have a triple net lease on a building, I'm telling you, it's very expensive. I thank God every day I own my own store and my own building. But I'm telling you something, it takes a certain breed of person to be in business these days. And we don't need to start seeing our businesses going out here. And I hope our chamber steps it up and gets involved more in shopping local and puts on a campaign in this community to make sure our businesses are healthy and are going to survive this, because God knows we don't know how much longer this is going to go on. We all hope and pray that it will, you know, take care of itself at some point. But until it does, you know, we need those businesses paying those taxes. We need those businesses employing our children and our adults. And I don't need to go on, but, and I don't mean to get on a soapbox, but after 40-some years in business, when you got to write paychecks and you got to employ people and you want to do that, and that's your decision, it's very important we patronize one another and help one another in these very difficult times. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Toy. Anyone else? Mr. Taramina, did you just want to give us a brief explanation of what drove this? And go ahead, please.
I think it was, you know, just a continuation of the same type of challenges that Councilmember Toy just referenced, and the fact that the previous resolution that we adopted expired some time ago. So it really is appropriate to renew this at this time, to make sure there's no question about our restaurant's abilities to continue with the outdoor dining, consistent with the policies that we had in place throughout the summer and fall.
Thank you, Mr. Bernier.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, to give you credit, Council President McIntyre. Quite frankly, this expired on October 31st, and I missed it. And you called me up and pointed it out, and we just tried jumping on it as fast as we could. We did make some changes to it because obviously circumstances have changed. One of those is we reflected that the orders are actually the orders of the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and not the governor's orders technically. And we also put in some, we never envisioned that this was going to be going on through the winter time and we be eating outside in the winter time. So we made some amendments and changes to it so that the Department of Inspections can take a look at important things like ventilation, because I know we're using a lot of heating in there. So we want to make sure that the public is safe and that. So those were a few of the little tweaks that were made in the resolution on it. So,
Thank you, Mr. Bernier, and thank you for the clarification, and also Mr. Chairman, and what I wanted to get at was the fact that this is consistent with what we had done in the fall, and we had thought that it would last as long as the governor and now Department of Health and Human Services had restrictions in place. Those continued, and we had technically ended this on October 31st. And just one question about the way we've written this. So as we all probably heard, the governor's intentions as of today to open restaurants on February 1st, you know, pursuant or subject to a lot of conditions. Or, you know, number one, that may not happen. Cases continue to spike, she indicated. Number two, I think we all know that if cases continue to rise, she's likely to, DHHS is likely to put the restrictions and the close things down again. This would stay, right? Then this would become relevant again as long as it goes on, right?
Correct. We have it worded in such a way that we eliminated the mistake I made in the past by putting a specific date on there. And it's going to continue as long as we have the orders from the appropriate orders from the department, reducing the seating capacity of the restaurants or not allowing indoor dining at all. So if as I anticipate come February 1st, indoor dining is open, but it's at limited capacity, probably half would be my guess, that this would still be applied. If miraculously on February 1st, COVID went away, so would this.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. I only take exception with one thing you said. You don't make mistakes, so. Anyway, all right. There's no further comments from the council. I will go to the audience. If anyone in the audience would like to comment on this agenda item, now is the opportunity to do so. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on this?
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough?
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic?
Aye.
Councilmember Jolly?
Aye.
Councilmember Toy?
Aye.
Vice President Barr?
Aye.
President McIntyre?
Aye. And the resolution is approved, and so we have renewed the outdoor dining as a administrative process. All right, at this time, we go back to the audience. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to communicate with the council on any item that was not on this evening's agenda, now is your opportunity to do so. All right, I see one hand up. Amanda Carvalho.
Hello, my name is Amanda Caravala. I live in Old Rosedale Gardens, and for the last couple of months, I have been reviewing all of the citizen complaints about the Livonia Police Department for the past 6 years and compiling them into an easily readable and shareable format. I can't say that I'm surprised about the complaints I have read. However, I am surprised at the overall lack of action and at times total denial by the City Council and the Mayor in regard to the continued perception that Livonia targets Black drivers. Trivial traffic infractions and stops have been the gateway to many Black citizens' deaths at the hands of law enforcement throughout the country, and there is no excuse for elected members of government to do nothing as these targeted traffic infractions continue on in their localities. Denying that this specifically is a problem here in Livonia cannot continue given the data, the complaints, and the responses to those complaints from the Livonia Police Department. I'd like to ask each of you how many times you've had the drug dogs called out to search your car over a failure to turn signal, how many times you've had your ID requested as a passenger in a minor traffic stop, and how many times you've been surrounded by police with weapons drawn demanding your son get out of the car because someone else committed a crime, as these are just a few of the things transpiring in our city for your Black constituents. In all of these cases, our police department does not deny the complaint, but states it was acting within policy. I'd like to read a complaint from a Black female in her early 30s. Friday, I was leaving the skating rink with my 2 children. I was followed by an unmarked car onto the freeway. I was unaware it was an undercover cop. He was driving very aggressive behind me, forcing me to either speed up or switch lanes. He then followed me to Detroit, and then another patrol car arrived and followed me. I decided to get off the freeway and pull into a crowded gas station where the cops then flashed their lights, withdrew their weapons, and ordered me and my son to put our hands out the window. My son was ordered to exit the vehicle, and then he was frisked and questioned. I received an apology, and the only explanation was that I was followed because I was leaving the area of a robbery. Per the police department's response, there was an armed robbery in the area of the skating rink, and the suspect description was a younger Black male wearing a red hoodie. They go on to explain that a plainclothes officer spotted her vehicle leaving the skating rink, and it is policy for an unmarked car to maintain visual contact. Despite not being able to see the son's attire, the stop proceeds as the complainant described. LPD states that the officers were very cautious, given the suspect they were searching for was armed and that the stop only lasted for 5 minutes and 45 seconds, as if that fixes her family being pursued like criminals and her son being forced to exit the safety of his mother's vehicle at gunpoint. I would like to know if any of you feel that a child being forced out of their mother's vehicle at gunpoint is an acceptable end to a fun day of roller skating just because someone of the same race committed a crime, and also if you are comfortable with the fact that this entire incident apparently aligns with the policies and procedure of Livonia's Police Department.
Thank you, Ms. Carvalho. Anything else?
Nope, that's all.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Next, we go to Sarah Overwater.
Hi there.
Good evening, Ms. Overwater.
Good evening, council members and all on the call. I appreciate your time for audience communication. I would like to reiterate a request that I've made before that the council put on the agenda. The Citizens Review Board for the Livonia Police Department. I think that's a very necessary item for the council to take up and discuss. At a study meeting, there are several people in the community that have been researching and are ready to come and help present the idea to the council as well. I would also like to read some quotes from the complaints against the Livonia Police Department. In a time where African Americans are being gunned down at alarming rates, she was alone at 2:30 in the morning with 3 cars of Livonia Police Department officers surrounding her and no one to protect her. Your department showed no empathy, and the officer had the audacity to say to me, "You seem like well-spoken, well-educated people," a mother wrote in her statement. Another complaint reads, "It wasn't until the officer noticed I was Black that they decided to turn on emergency lights and turn behind me from the left lane. Clearly a civil rights violation." And from yet another complaint, "I was a passenger in a traffic stop. The officer requested my ID and I asked if there was a reason to give my ID, and the officer said it was for identity purposes, and I asked that it wasn't necessary. The officer said, no, it's not, but I want to make sure there are no child molesters in the car. I do not think that's an appropriate way to speak to a civilian who has done nothing wrong, nor has he given a reason for that suspicion." In another complaint, the complainant advises the officer his credentials are in the glove box and that he was afraid to reach for anything. When the officer asks why, the complainant replied, "Due to recent events." And the officer then asks if he has any weapons or if he even has a license. And finally, from yet another complaint, "I'm happy that my friend was treated with kindness and respect, but I'm a little sad and embarrassed at how I was treated." For your information, when people are being pulled off to the side of the road, they're already scared. There's no need to be overly aggressive when you don't have to. I believe these complaints should be looked at by someone besides the police department. I think it is imperative that citizens can have a say in that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Overwater. Anyone else who would like to address the council during this final audience communication? All right, calling once, twice, last call for audience communication. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, but before we do that, I do have to go back and ask Mr. Jolly one question. When you went to Novi to the Chick-fil-A, did you get all of your order?
I did not have the patience to wait. After not even making it to the parking lot in 15 minutes, I gave up.
All right.
I did diligently wait in the Macy's parking lot in the extended line for 15 minutes, talking myself into it and out of it repeatedly.
Can I say something? And I will admit, I have never had a Chick-fil-A in my life, but aren't we talking about chicken sandwiches? That's it?
They're really good nuggets.
And waffle fries and sweet tea.
Oh, the sweet tea. I forgot about that.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Jolly, for answering a question that was on my mind for a long time.
And my daughter works there, so you should go there just for that.
There you go. All right. So with no further ado, if anyone has a motion to adjourn, I will accept it.
So move. Support.
That was a seven-way tie. We'll give it to Barr with support from McCullough, and I believe, Madam Clerk, we can safely show 7 on that. And just to reiterate, we do not have a study meeting this evening. We did not receive any study items in time to have them on the process for the agenda. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Good night, Livonia. Thank you, LivoniaTV, Casey, everyone who took the time to be with us tonight, and good night, Council.